Let's be honest, Helldivers 2 is a phenomenon. Every night, hundreds of thousands of us are diving feet first into hell, spreading managed democracy with every orbital strike we can call down. The chaos, the beauty, the feeling of being a tiny, expendable cog in a massive galactic war is one of the best co-op experiences ever made. But for those of us who cut our teeth in the first war, we remember some things. We remember when the armory was even crazier, the threats were more bizarre, and our tactical options were wider. The Helldivers 2 is an incredible sequel, but there are some top tier features from the original that would completely reshape the current battlefield. So today, we're looking back at the best tools and toys from Helldivers 1 that Arrowhead absolutely needs to bring back into the modern age. This isn't a complaint list, it's more of a wish list for an even more glorious future. Let's talk loadouts. In Helldivers 2, you get 4 stratagems. That's it. It forces you into a hard choice, which is great, but also limits the specialization. What if you could go all in on a specific role? In Helldivers 1, you could bring multiple copies of the same stratagem. Just think about what that opens up. You could have one player on your team be the anti-tank guy, dropping in with 4 stacks of disposable rocket launchers. He'll be a walking tank buster machine, constantly calling down heavy weapons for the squad, which frees up everyone else to bring more crowd control or utility. And while you can kind of do that in Helldivers 2 content via these special type missions that grant you extra stratagems, it's not like you get a choice in how many you select and pick. This system allowed for true dedicated specialists in a way Helldivers 2 just doesn't do right now. At the moment, everyone has to be a bit of a generalist. You need to clear small enemies, hurt big ones, and do the objective. But imagine a demolition expert running 3 or 4 different eagle strikes, capable of wiping an entire automaton factory off the map by themselves, or a support player loading up with multiple resupply packs and a shield generator, whose only job is to keep the team alive and armed. This wasn't about being overpowered, it was about being smart and having a tactical teamwork. You could look at a defense mission and decide, okay, we'll all bring sentries, and build a literal fortress of death. For a quick blitz mission, everyone could just stack jump packs. Bringing back stackable stratagems would add a whole new layer of stratagems that reward squads for planning ahead. Now, the Patriot Exosuit was an awesome addition to the Helldivers 2. We finally got a taste of some real heavy armour, but for veterans, it's just an appetizer. The first game didn't just have mechs, it had a whole garage of vehicles. The MVP we're all missing is the M5 Armoured Personnel Carrier. This thing wasn't just a taxi, it was a mobile bunker. You could power your whole 4-person squad inside, protecting from everything but the heaviest hits. One person drives, one mans the big turret on the top, and the other 2 could just chill. You know that feeling on the harder difficulties, staring across a massive open field that's basically a death sentence on foot? The ABC was the answer. It let you cross the map safely and served as a mobile anchor point in a firefight. There's also rumours that it does exist in the game, but not fully completed just yet. And then there was the Hammer motorcycle, a zippy 2-seater with a sidecar. It had almost no armour, but it was incredibly fast. Perfect for scouting, hitting objectives on the opposite sides of the map, or making frantic getaways to the extraction zone. There was even more variants, like an APC with a giant 90mm cannon instead of a turret, and a literal 2-person tank destroyer called the Bastion. The bigger maps in Helldivers 2 can sometimes feel like a real slog, where just getting from point A to point B is the hardest part. These vehicles wouldn't just make it faster, they'll add a whole new dimension of gameplay centered on transport, defense, and coordinated vehicle assaults. And speaking of explosive ideas, if you're enjoying this analysis of Helldivers 2 and how it could get even better, do your part for the war effort and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing vital intelligence to the front lines. Alright, let's talk guns. The arsenal in Helldivers 2 is solid, but let's be real, a meta formed fast. Patches have thankfully shaken things up, but the pool of top tier viable weapons still feel a bit small. By the end of his run, Helldivers 1 had a much bigger and wider armory to select. One of the most missed weapons, hands down, is the LAS 13 Trident. This was a laser shotgun. It fired a wide spread of beams, didn't use ammo, and just worked off a heatsink, like the laser cannon. It was an absolute monster for shredding swarms of bugs, and was a go-to pick for almost any situation. But the rarity went so much more deeper. we had the M25 Rumbler, a support weapon that was basically a portable mortar. You could arc grenades over cover to take out enemies you couldn't even see. Then there was the Tox 13 Avenger, a sludge thrower that was a pure chemical warfare, melting and slowing down everything it touched. Even though we have a gas variant of the following, this version could be added that actually weakened targets' armour while also damaging them. This could be useful for those that don't have heavy pen on hand, but want to soften up a part of the enemy as much as possible. We even had crazy weapons like the Double Freedom that had 2 barrels and 2 triggers, or the Las Tanto, which from what I understand is a laser SMG variant. A stale meta just leads to repetitive gameplay. Bringing in these more unique and specialized weapons would create entirely new ways to play. The Rumbler would be a fantastic counter to automatron fortifications. The Avenger will be incredible for locking down choke points during a bug breach. More weapons don't just mean more things to shoot, they mean more ways to be creative on the battlefield. However, just passing them through the game shouldn't be a one and done thing. If possible, we should also find ways to upgrade them, to truly make them feel more unique in Helldivers 2 environments. Finally, let's talk about the art of calling things in from orbit. Helldivers 2 has some incredible fire and forget stratagems. You toss a beacon, and the orbital rail cannon or the 500 kg bomb does the rest. It's awesome, but some of the most interesting stratagems for the first game demanded more from the player. The best example of this was the Shredder Missile Strike. When you call this in, a targeting laser will pop up, and then you had to manually guide the incoming missile by keeping the laser painted onto a target. If you got staggered or had to dodge, the missile would fly off, of course. But if you held steady, you could guide a mini nuke right onto a biotitan's head with surgical precision. It was the ultimate high risk, high reward weapon. However, I would like to point out that the newly added Solar Silo is basically similar to the missile in some way or form. Perhaps, if they do bring it back in, give it a massive damage boost that outranks what the 500 kg and Solar Silo do, but give it a massive cooldown as well, just to show how risky it really is. Another great one to add was the RX-34 rail cannon turret. This was an automated sentry that, just like the rest of the turrets in game, would lock onto a target and release a powerful blast capable of piercing targets. It could lock down an entire lane, and it also created a raw tactical choice when used correctly. What these stratagems offered was a deeper level of expression. They weren't just about throwing a beacon, they were about timing, coordination, and holding your nerve against pressure. Bringing back these kind of interactive, skill-based tools would give veteran squads another level of mastery to chase in the name of democracy. From the sheer tactical depth of a bigger armory and a vehicle bay, the First Galactic War left behind a legacy of incredible ideas for Helldivers 2 to incorporate. Arrowhead has given us a great game, and the sky's the limit for where it goes next. These aren't just features we're nostalgic for, they are proven concepts that would add so much variety and replayability to a game we really can't get enough of. They're new ways to fight, new problems to solve, and most importantly, new stories of triumph and hilarious failures to forge with your friends. But that's just my priority list. I want to hear from you. What are the Helldivers 1 features you missed the most? A certain weapon? A vehicle? A specific planet type? Let me know in the comments below. So, stay safe out there, Helldivers. Keep fighting a good fight, and I'll see you all in the next one.